but also too, I think there's some room for us to think about the power of silence and space a little bit and letting things land in our
Yeah.
storytelling. So how do you gauge when like, hey, this is a moment that something needs to land versus me moving on?
The silence thing is interesting because going back to doing the therapy stuff at the moment, like studying to be a therapist, like I struggle with silence like everybody does. I mean, there's something that you learn like in counseling. There's a silence is a skill,
Hmm.
and the ability to leave it. Like if you're sitting and talking to somebody and they kind of run themselves out of steam and they stop and there's a minute of silence or a minute of silence, a second of silence. Most of us will go like, quick, I need to have a question. And you got because you got to fill the silence, right? We can't just sit there and stare at each other. You're actually encouraged in counseling to leave those long pauses, hold them till they're uncomfortable. Because what often happens is, and if you're familiar with Louis Theroux's stuff, he's a documentary filmmaker from the UK. He's done a lot of stuff in the States. He's a master at this. So he'll go in with just a cameraman to some quirky community somewhere and hang out with them for a week. But when he does interviews with people, they're often walking around a house showing him things. And he uses this trick all the time that they'll talk until they're finished saying what they're saying, but it's all been kind of surface. And then they'll finish and they'll look at him expecting him to ask another question, and he'll just look at them. And now there's a camera and this interviewer looking at them, and they feel the pressure to fill that space, and they'll jump in and they'll start talking. And whatever comes out next is usually brilliant because they have to drop down a
Mm-hmm.
level. They've run out of surface stuff. They gave you it all. That's why they're looking for a question to move on to the next topic. But he won't. If he feels like it's good, he waits and they drop down and then start to dig a bit deeper to find something else to say. And it's such an amazing tactic, works in counseling. And I just think like as a bit of a life philosophy, whether it's taking silence or space for ourselves, good stuff always comes out of that. In conversations with other people, in the style of putting things out into the world, like great stuff comes after silence. And I think like making that space for ourselves more and more, which we're all uncomfortable with. We all hate it. I hate it as much as anybody else. Learning how to be comfortable with our own silence and space with people in our lives as well
Mm-hmm.
is really powerful.